All right.
We are recording. Hello, everyone.
Yes. Say hey.
Oh, yeah.
This is exciting. Okay, what's
That's why
up?
the red light's on.
I know. I think we finally got the setup worked out. Yeah, cool. Okay. Ready?
Break it down, baby. Break it down.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Shrink Think podcast. We are excited to be here again today, as always. We love being here. We love our show, we love our listeners, we love what we do.
So much love.
So much love. In fact, I got a tear. You can't. Thank you for wiping away my tear. We are excited to be here. We're going to talk a little bit about a conversation I had with a friend recently about, he asked me a question about, what do you do when you are growing? You've done some personal growth in your life, and you're kind of realizing that some of these friends maybe that you've had for a long time or throughout your life, they're kind of no longer serving you anymore. It's not like these are bad people. It's not like the relationships are bad or toxic. They're just not really where you are. And so he's like, is it okay to get rid of these friendships or to change them in some way? I feel bad even asking that question, but I was like, actually, this is a good question because a lot of people have this question, especially after they come to therapy, right? Because they do some growing and they go back into their life and they're like, oh. So with that, we're going to talk about that subject. Nathan, what are your initial thoughts?
My initial thought, honestly, you were like, if they're not serving you, what do
Right.
what do I do with them? Bad servant. Go away.
So does that mean that they're not fanning me with a big fan and feeding me grapes? Yeah, none of my friends are doing that.
Right. Wait a minute. No, you're right. I don't do that either. My initial thoughts are, we talked about this last night when we were trying to kind of game out what we were going to do. And as you started describing that, I was like, this actually happens a lot. I mean, we end up in these conversations, and it's not because somebody's getting tired of something. It's more that you start realizing that the other person's not really there for you. It's almost like the relationship's kind of gone where it's going to go, and you have all this habit type of talk, same kinds of conversation come up. You already know what the person's going to say. You've gotten used to maybe the person that's kind of asking us this question is used to going deeper than they used to go, but maybe not in that relationship. And it's almost like that relationship doesn't know how to do it. And the problem is, I think in some cases, the other friend, whoever we're talking about, isn't open to it. Like they want to kind of stay in the rut.
Yeah, here's a good example of that. We deal with this all the time. It's like if you've got some friends and you all drink together and that's what you do. You go out, you have fun, maybe you get drunk, but there's all kinds of crazy things that are happening at the bar or at somebody's house or whatever. And then it's like you decide, or maybe you're the one where your partner has got an issue with your drinking because another time you ended up on YouTube doing something stupid or drunk phone calling, with some angry rant or whatever. So it's like, okay, I need to quit drinking. And so you come to therapy, you get some help, you quit drinking. And then it's like, wait a minute, all of these friends that I have, we've had some great times. Maybe we go back to high school, but I'm not drinking anymore, and that's what they're doing. I can be around them, especially if we're at a sports bar maybe, or we're watching a game, we're in public. But if somebody's throwing a party or we're out at some big event, I don't really want to go because that's all everyone's doing, and I don't want to be there with my Coke,
Right.
sipping my water, my milk,
My milk.
my milk extra cold, please, on ice. 2%.
Where did you get the milk? Did you take it in with you?
Yes. You drag your cooler in your little...
Yeah. Aaron, what's in your cooler? Man, I got some nice 2% rolling up here. You guys want some? It's on ice, baby. Right.
Does the body good.
Yeah.
It's like that. What are you going to do, right? So these friendships, they're great people, and oftentimes they're going through their own struggles or they've got their own issues that have kept them from being able to go deeper or to look at like real issues. Maybe they got some problems in their life that they're running away from, or whatever the case may be. But you're like wanting to deal with your stuff, and these people are not. It doesn't seem like they are. You try to have some of these conversations, and they're just kind of more shallow because they're drinkers.
There's another flavor to this. It's the friend that you meet with every now and then, and there's never, you can expect this is exactly going to be a conversation. You meet with them, they basically tell you a bunch of things. You really don't end up saying much.
You listen a lot.
And then the conversations, when you're looking at your watch and you're realizing like you got other stuff you have to do, you were going to hang out for X amount of time, and that time is basically coming to an end, and it's one more time where you don't know why you're there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, apparently you're there for the other person, and they have their scheduled brain dump, apparently.
And that's, again, we're not saying that that's entirely bad. Like, there are friendships like that are fine. You can have people in your life like that where you're there, you care about them, maybe they helped you through something, and maybe you're helping them through something or whatever. Or if this is the way it always is, maybe you get something out of being with them, and that's fine. But we're saying is like when you're moving in a direction in your life where you're ready to move on from that, and maybe like this guy was saying essentially like, I need something more. I need to be fed. I need to have friends that are going to sharpen me. They're going to hold me accountable, ask me questions. We can have deeper conversations, have deeper connections, like we talked about in a previous episode. And so I need people in my life like that. So I can't continue to have friendships that are only like that. I need something more. So is this okay to let go of?
Right. And I guess the question is in some ways, how? I mean, how do you do it? I mean, it's one of those things where do you need to actually guillotine this thing, make the break, or do you just ghost them over time?
You're fired. That's what you need to do.
You got to do the cobra. The hand cobra. You're fired.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I kind of liked saying that. Anyway.
Hey, how's it going? You're fired. What do you mean? Why are you walking away? Wait, come back. I thought we were friends.
You just fired me. Yeah. Anyway, I was thinking about this, and if I was in that situation, I think I kind of was. So I'm in a.
You were fired?
I wasn't the fired guy. I'm the fired. I'm never the fired guy. I'm just kidding. I hope I'm not. I think another avenue that happens over time. This is a situation I found myself in. Is I found myself being, if I did not schedule it or to set it up, it's not going to happen.
If you were not the one that did it.
Yeah, it just is the way it is. So I just stopped, and there's a couple people I didn't see for like 2 or 3 years. And so in that way, actually after a while, I thought, well, I do like hanging out with them, but I want to be pursued, right? I want to have them reaching out to me, which I had the conversation, honestly, with them. And that did change it a bit.
And I think that's a normal part of a relationship. I mean, when you're saying that, I don't think you're really saying, like, I'm going to sit back and, like, wait for them to call me. No, it's like in every relationship, I think you want to know that you're valued and that you're important to the other person. It's not just that I'm important or you're important to me and I'm reaching out to you. And when it's convenient for you or because I'm doing it, then you're like, oh yeah, I'd love to get together. But it's like, why is it always me that's doing that, right? When the other person shows initiation and takes the initiative to reach out and do those kinds of things, then you're like, oh, you were thinking about me and you care about me and you value this relationship just as much as me because we're both investing into it.
Yeah, and I want to say, in the same way that of the vein that we've started this podcast, there's a certain age where this kind of actually becomes a bigger deal. I think when you start getting into your 40s, mm-hmm. it really starts to separate friends from like old habits,
right?
Because in the friends that you end up keeping, generally speaking, or the people that you end up hanging out with more generally, is because of the mutual setup of the friendship. Like maybe you don't say anything and then they call you, and then they don't say anything and then you call them. But there is still, when you go through a lot of growth, and typically it's in therapy, people come in. IFS is a great example. We've talked about it before, episode 50. I refer to it literally all the time. IFS can get some very quick, deep changes where people have these major realizations, is what I would say. It's not like it happens all the time, but when it happens, it's it's almost like this life reevaluation thing where they almost don't get along. In other words, they're not really proud of themselves for hanging out with some of their friends.
Right, because some part of them has shifted, right? Like maybe they're operating from part A of themselves, which in this will kind of spare you some of the details, but it's sort of like a manager part maybe. And then as you sink into more of your true self, it's like you shift and you're a little bit different, maybe to the outside world, but you're a lot different to the inside world.
Right, and it doesn't feel, you don't get anything more from that. It's like, I don't really, that part of myself is healed or it's done. And so it doesn't need to be managed. I don't manage it. And I'm just okay.
Right.
And so now you're with maybe a person before that would basically just be, we're friends with the manager, but there is no manager.
If I don't need to be managed, then I'm like, I don't need this.
Right.
Why is this happening?
Yeah. And it can feel weird. So I guess kind of our point is there's several ways I think that people get into these situations. Some is just you grow up, you get older. Some is that you grow quickly through a therapeutic intervention, or maybe you just have a realization through some of your own personal growth ways that you've been choosing to do. But then the question after that is, okay, well, it sounds like what these guys are saying is it's okay to back off, but I guess the question is how?
Right. Yeah, and I think you said one of those ways, which I think is okay. I wouldn't say that it's like the best, but I've done this and I know other people that have done this. It's kind of like, I'm curious what happens if I don't initiate with this person, or if I don't text them, if I'm not calling or scheduling something. I'm kind of curious to see what happens. So I guess one way to start is like, let's see if this other person responds, or maybe in my mind, it's a little bit of an experiment of like, is this even true? Is what I'm thinking accurate? Am I the one that's always initiating? So let's see what happens if I give it some time. If I don't text, if I don't respond for a month or 2 months, and maybe at a certain point, you're not really intending it to be 2 or 3 years, but that just is kind of what happens because you're like, I'm not initiating, and so nothing's happening, and so you just sort of forget about it, and then time goes on, and it's like, oh yeah, dude, what happened to this person? Like, that's actually kind of an indication of like, yeah, whatever you were thinking or hypothesis was true, and now you know. So I think it's okay, but I think there's something that needs to happen after that or somewhere inside of that, which is like you need to have the conversation with somebody.
I think it probably does depend on what is going on currently. Like, because the other side of this coin is the friend that you're with a lot, and honestly, it's got to the point where it's kind of annoying. Like, you don't really. It's the same thing we were mentioning earlier. It's all about them.
Are you saying something about me? Like I have this moment of like, wait, is he talking about me? All of a sudden, like, what are you trying to say on air? What are you telling me something?
On air. This sounds funny. We should have an on-air light.
That's
but
true.
No, I'm not saying.
Okay, we're still friends. Okay.
Yeah. We do need an on-air light. That would be badass. So I think it's more like, I'm thinking of sitcoms right now, and I don't really want to describe them in any of those, but like the one person, maybe you're the person who's kind of got these ideas that you want to go do something, but the other person would never want to do that. You've become more interested in doing different things. You know they won't. You've suggested it. They are not interested. No, bro, we always do blah, blah, or whatever. And you're sitting there like, okay, well, it's almost like you need to break up with them, you know, and kind of go through like, hey, we're just in different spaces. It's not you, it's me. Right. Classic. Actually, it's exactly the opposite. It's totally you.
Right.
Anyway, but you probably do need to say something. So what would you say?
Yeah, I think as you're putting me on the spot, but I think just be honest, first of all, like, hey, I've just been doing a lot of growth, and I've really valued our friendship, and we've spent this time together, we've done all these things, and it's been great. I've really appreciated you. I enjoy my time with you, and I'm thinking specifically if like, that instance where it's like you do all the talking, I do all the listening, maybe I can be like, I really enjoy you. I would say things that are true about the other person because I do want them to know that I do care about them on some level, right? That's not untrue. Just because we're sort of breaking up on this level doesn't mean that I don't enjoy you on some level. So I appreciate you, enjoy you. I've been doing some growth, and I'm really needing some friendships in my life that can go deeper. I've learned some things about myself, or I'm exploring some things about life that I need support with, I need help with. And I just have found that every time I bring that up, it's really difficult for us to have those kinds of conversations. And so I guess I'm thinking in my mind as we're talking about this, maybe it's not so much we're totally breaking up, but it's like I might not be spending as much time with you as we have been because I'm pursuing these other kinds of relationships.
As you're saying this, I think there is an element that it's like you are officially inviting this person into a different relationship, right? And it really, it's kind of a call to action. Maybe you've done things, you've said some stuff, it hasn't landed because the person's not really hearing you. Like they're just kind of slinking right back in the same old thing again. And so this kind of conversation is like highlighting, hey, you may have noticed I've been kind of different. You've known I've been going to therapy, or you've known I've been interested in these kind of things. And I really haven't been doing that kind of stuff anymore. So I'm letting you know that I'm not interested in doing those things anywhere. Like, so, and I know that we do, that's kind of been our thing. So I don't know what we're going to do now, that it's not even my thing at all. Whatever this is, like whatever habit you have together or whatever.
I think you could have like some sort of a invitation to the other person. Like if you thought maybe they would be interested in it or trying it, like I would love for you to be able to, come with me and go into that arena. But it seems like every time we talk about it, you're just not interested. But I mean, if you are, then I would be open to exploring that. But it just doesn't seem like that's something that has been your thing, and that's okay. That's okay. It doesn't mean just because I'm going in this direction and you have no interest in going that direction, doesn't mean anything bad about us. And here's where, I guess in my mind, when I was saying this earlier, I was like, it's a little bit of a Marie Kondo moment where you're like, you're pulling out the friendship and you're like sitting with it on your lap and you're like, shirt, you have served me well in my life. Thank you for keeping me warm and going with me on all of these outings. Goodbye. It's like you're appreciating that object, that person, that relationship for what it did, for how it served you in your life and what it served each of you, because that did have a tremendous amount of value for that time and for where you were.
Right. So it's honestly about honoring the entire thing. I mean, as we're talking about this, we're therapists and we sound like therapists, like in how we're doing. Because
I don't know how not to.
I know. I'm the same way. I get told that, like, my wife is like, don't be a normal person. Say it normal. I am me. Like,
right, this is what I do all day long. I don't know.
I don't even know.
The lines are blurred.
Yeah. So I guess, like I'm thinking of a broham that needs to say something like, bro, I'm in a different place, so we're kind of done.
Dude, I'm not in a different place, dude.
Okay, I have to say, like, we totally were like in, where was it, Savannah? No, it was
Jekyll Island, Georgia.
Last year, and this guy came up and was talking to us, and that's how he sounded. We did it's like
total bro.
Honestly, dude, check it out, just for a second, dude. I just want to tell you one more thing. And the guy talked literally like that, and we can't stop every once in a while.
He's our broham,
and he is a broham. He's totally like that. Whatever you think of in your mind of that,
they are out there. Like, they're on Jekyll Island. That's where they are.
Oh my gosh, that was an awesome situation. It was so funny. I just think about it. So I don't know how you would say it, maybe in a different scenario, but what we're trying to get across is what you need to consider. You need to consider the relationship. Say something about it, of what it's been like for you over time, and then highlight the differences that are now, because maybe the very action that needs to happen to change the relationship and grow it is just simply to have the conversation which maybe you don't want to do, maybe you don't, maybe you want to ghost them.
Yeah, and two more things. I think it's going to be uncomfortable, like as when you're saying that, Nathan, I'm thinking you're putting something out there, and I'm very well aware and talking with other people that we as therapists get really, really comfortable with silence and discomfort, but most other people are not. So this is like a call to, like, you're going to be uncomfortable. You're going to have to put it out there, and then you're going to feel uncomfortable, but you got to let the discomfort just be. Don't try to, like, oh, well, but, because that's when you might start, like, changing what you're saying or
compromising,
going back on your boundary or whatever it is. So be ready and be willing to tolerate the discomfort. And then I think the last thing is sometimes people actually, when they have these breaks or when they lose some of these relationships, they go away and they think about it, they miss what they had, and they're like, oh man, that was like, I really miss Nathan. Like, that was really helpful to me. Like, I didn't want to go where he was going, but like, I'm kind of thinking maybe I do want that, because I really value him, and I'm realizing he brought a certain depth to me that I don't have. Maybe you were the person that brought me a little bit deeper, but I wasn't really willing to go there. But now that it's gone, I'm like, maybe I do want that and I will go there. And maybe sometimes, and I'm not saying a lot, but sometimes those people may come around and say, you know what, I did a lot of thinking, like months later, years later, I did a lot of thinking and I did some of my own growth, and I would like to have you back in my life because I really appreciate that depth, if you're willing.
Yeah, and the other thing too that you might realize is that there are certain things that you really could only do with them that you really enjoy. And so maybe the relationship just changes focus. Maybe what you do is you don't intentionally pursue like the depth, other than to say like, well, I've been going through differences and changes or whatever. And so I'm not really interested in doing that. And that you just make little statements like that, and the relationship kind of starts to divide. You end up spending less time. And then over time, you are really honestly not spending very much time except for the time that you have those shared things. And that's okay. It's not like you are slowly ghosting them. It's just like all you're doing is focusing on what the relationship actually means to you and what you're mutually getting back from it.
Right. So with all of this, it's okay for your relationships to change, because as we grow and we evolve, your relationships need to as well, and that's perfectly okay. And just as a disclaimer, we're going to start saying this at the end of our episodes, even though we are clinicians and we are therapists, this is not clinical advice, right? Like
No.
we are
not your clinicians.
We are not your therapist. I'm not your therapist. He's not your therapist.
But we do have the cheese.
But we got the cheese. So take it for what it is. It's not legal advice. It's not clinical advice, but we hope it's helpful.
And we thank you for listening.
Have a great day. Booyah, that was me. You forgot to do it.
I did.
That was good.
I know.
I like this camera switching thing. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
You actually got
and
it.
I've got it down a little bit.
I know.
I kind of was like, oh.
You're right. What are we talking about? Squirrels.
I don't even know what you were talking. Oh, there you are.
Right.
What were you saying?
It's a little distracting too. Like sometimes when
you see the red light go.
Yeah, I'm like, I need to talk. Like, stop talking. The camera's on me now.
Yeah. No.
It's my turn.
I know. Can I just say something right now?
Right. Here, let me interrupt you for a second. Okay, never mind. The camera's on you.
Oh my gosh. No, it's awesome. This camera thing's fun.